Let's dive into a story that on the surface makes absolutely no sense. It's all about a king who, by every single measure, should have lost, and lost badly.
And that brings us to the real head scratcher, the question at the heart of this whole thing. Why on earth would God step in and save a king who the Bible itself calls one of the worst in history? We're not talking about a guy who just made a few mistakes. We're talking about someone who seemed to actively choose the wrong path every time.
So, let's meet our main character, King Ahab. And the text doesn't pull any punches. It says he did more evil, more to provoke God, than all the kings of Israel who came before him. So yeah, let's call him our unworthy protagonist. Okay, so our story kicks off with Ahab at rock bottom. He's facing a threat that seems totally and completely impossible to overcome.
You've got to understand the situation here. Israel has been crushed by a 3-year famine. They're starving, their economy's in shambles, their military is weak. And just to their north, their powerful rival Syria looks over and sees a perfect opportunity to swoop in and take over. Israel is a sitting duck.
I mean, just look at this exchange. The power dynamic is just staggering. The Syrian king, Ben-Hadad, he doesn't even bother to negotiate. He just says, everything you have is now mine. And Ahab? He just rolls over. No fight, no pushback. Just, okay, you got it, we're yours. And if you thought that was arrogant, get a load of this. Ben-Hadad is so sure of himself, he basically says, I'm going to grind your capital city into dust so fine that when I'm done, my soldiers won't even be able to scoop up a handful. That's not a threat. That's pure, uncut arrogance.
And here's a really critical detail from the source. In his darkest hour, with everything on the line, what does Ahab do? Does he pray? Does he ask God for help? Nope. He just looks at the massive army on his doorstep and gives up. He bows to the bigger power.
But then, right when it looks like it's all over, the story takes a hard left turn. A message comes that changes the entire game. Just bam, out of the blue, a prophet walks up to Ahab and drops this bombshell from God. Can you imagine? Ahab staring at this giant, unstoppable army, and this guy says, see all those guys? Yeah, you're gonna beat them today.
Which of course brings us right back to that big question, why? Seriously, why? Ahab has done nothing to earn this. He didn't have a change of heart. He didn't show some hidden faith. He didn't even ask for help. This is pure, unadulterated grace. So, what's going on?
And there it is. That's the whole reason. This rescue isn't for Ahab. It's not a pat on the back. The whole point, the entire reason for this impossible victory, is to make one thing crystal clear. It's a demonstration designed to teach a single lesson, to show everyone, especially Ahab, who's really in charge.
All right, so if the goal is to prove it's God's power and not man's, you can bet the battle plan is going to be, let's just say, a little weird. We're talking about what you might call the underdog strategy. The whole idea is to use the smallest, weakest, most helpless-looking people you can find to win. Why? So that when the dust settles, nobody can possibly say, wow, our army was so strong. No, they'll have to admit the power came from somewhere else entirely.
And just look at the numbers. It's almost comical. Ahab has 232 junior officers and a tiny army of 7,000 guys. They're up against a massive force led by 32 enemy kings. On paper, this isn't a battle, it's a slaughter. So what's the brilliant military strategy? Get this. The 232 junior officers, not the seasoned generals, the junior guys, are going to lead the charge. And when are they going to attack? At high noon, right when all 32 of the enemy kings are kicking back in their tents, getting drunk. The enemy's arrogance is the secret weapon.
You know, this whole underdog thing isn't a one-time gimmick. It's a pattern you see over and over in the Bible. Think about it. Building a nation from women who couldn't have children, constantly picking the younger son over the stronger firstborn son, choosing a bunch of fishermen and despised tax collectors to start a world-changing movement. The strategy is always the same. Use the weak to show off true strength.
So the battle goes down exactly like the prophet said it would, but believe it or not, the craziest part of this story isn't the victory. It's what happens right after. Just like the plan said, these 232 young officers march out. The Syrian army is so cocky, they barely pay attention. But then the Israelis attack. And suddenly, this huge, intimidating army just panics. They break, they run. It's a complete and total rout, an impossible win.
So there you have it. The lesson was delivered on a silver platter. Ahab was handed this incredible, miraculous rescue he did absolutely nothing to deserve. So what's his response? How does he acknowledge this gift?
You want to know what he did? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The silence is just deafening. He didn't get on his knees. He didn't say, "Wow, I've been so wrong." He offered zero thanks. Not a word. The entire point of the miracle was, "Then you will know that I am the Lord," and the message just flew right over his head. You can almost hear him thinking, "Wow, I was pretty smart to trust those junior officers." He took the credit for a power that wasn't his.
And because Ahab completely missed the point, the story isn't over. That same prophet shows up again with a warning. He says, hey, don't get too comfortable, beef up your defenses, because this isn't a one and done. The king of Syria is coming back for you next spring. The test is going to come around again.
And this is where this ancient story kind of slams right into our lives today, doesn't it? It's easy to look at Ahab and shake our heads, but the story is really an invitation for us to look in the mirror. So the final question isn't about some long-dead king. It's about you. It's about me. When have we been given a gift, a rescue, a success we didn't earn, and then turned right around and patted ourselves on the back for how clever we were?